Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. It's another production log today. We are continuing working on this track here called Starting From Nothing. What we had done was I had laid down some patterns by just sort of noodling for a while, getting, a few minutes worth of noodling in, and then going through and looking at that clip that I captured and extracting different patterns, different clips out of there, cleaning them up a bit. And we ended up with something like this. Here's a quick taste. All right. And so I've got a few other ideas here. One of the things I want to do is I like that sound coming off the subsequent, but it's still a little muted. It's a little smeared, which is good. I want that sort of textural bed over the chord changes, but I want to add a little bite to it. Now, on the Cobalt, there is a patch I've got here. This is a preset called Glisteners, which I've tweaked a bit. When I first heard it, I was like, this is close to sort of a Fender Strat sort of through a jazz chorus kind of sound from the 80s. And I wanted to sort of push that up a bit. So I played with the envelopes a bit. I accentuated the amp envelope so that there's definitely a sort of harder attack and lowered the sustain a lot. So there's a pretty large disparity between the pick and then the sustain that rings out through it. It's got a nice chorus that's sort of, hence the name Glisteners. And then I pulled the sustain way down and muted it, dropped the sustain on the filter a lot so that that initial attack is crispy, but then it sort of pulls down the high end. And it's running through a Source Audio collider that's giving it sort of a hall reverb. I'm still going for that 80s vibe. So that's the sound I want to do, and I actually want to replicate these patterns over from the Moog onto this track. Right. So that when we play this, okay, so it's playing there, but I want to bring it up an octave. Do that. And let's see. And it's sustaining a little too much, so I don't want it to hold these out. So I'm going to pull the note length of these way down. Basically all the way. You can't, when you drop the note length in Ableton by dragging the endpoint of a MIDI note, it'll never close it completely. But then we'll listen to this, and I'm going to bring it back up very slowly and just see what sounds right to me. All right, that's too low. All right, that's working pretty well. Now I want the overall velocity to be, it was kind of pretty broad range coming off of the Moog. So I'm going to just sort of normalize this a bit. Bring them all down to 0. That sort of gets them all set to the same level. I'm going to guess and put it up around 100. Then we'll add a velocity sort of randomization range of about 20. So now when we play this, all right, so I like that. Now I'm going to pause the log. There's no point in you watching me do this over and over again. So let me pause. I'll go apply this to all the other clips, and we'll see how they sound. Be right back. Okay, we're back. So that didn't take too long. I went and duplicated these clips from the subsequent track over to the Cobalt 8 track. And then basically trim down their durations to be about an eighth note long. There's enough reverberation and delay on it that it'll sustain out, but having the attacks be distinct is useful. And both the, I should say, having the attack be distinct is useful, but also having the release of the note is having that be relatively short. Sounds better than holding it out. It gets a little too muddy and smeary if we hold it out too long. And then all of them have a velocity range from 80 to 100, just randomly determined. And it sounds like this. So I'm liking that. That sounds, that's about right. It's got the chord progression that I want to have carried out. It's got the sort of the harmonic content, and it's got this sort of rhythmic underpinning from the subsequent, right, as well as this sort of attack shimmer from the Cobalt 8 that's basically giving it this sort of, not aggression, but there's a suddenness to it that I like. I like that sort of struck sound. And we play with it more. I may play with some Strat samples as well. But so what's next? I think the next thing I want to do is start laying some bass lines over this to sort of putting a foundation on top of that. So I think what I'm just going to do is I'm going to steal one of these right now. I'm going to steal one of the Moog things, duplicate it over to the bass track, drop out all but the lowest notes on the line, and just see how it sounds. I'm going to end up playing these bass lines, I think, because I have more fun with that. I get more humanity out of it than just replicating this over and over again. But this will give me a good feel if I like the sound or not. So let's try that. We're just going to pick one. We'll use this one. We'll use this because there's a lot of the lowest notes in the pattern are sustaining, so we'll use that. All right, so we duplicate that over to my bass track, and we're just going to keep just the lowest notes. Let's adjust the velocities a bit to get some of that string click finger sound. So that works from a sort of sonic perspective. I like the register it's in, but it's a little static. All right, just doing these sustains. So I'm going to drop an arpeggiator on here, and we'll see if we can get sort of a strumming triplet sort of sound to it. Now, let's see how this is. Try it a little faster. Let's do octaves. Maybe just octaves. Went with 2 octaves, not quite right. Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna. I like the idea, but I think I need to play it to get a triplet feel to it that I'm happy with. I mean, I could arpeggiate it, but I'd rather play it. So, all right, hang on a second. Okay, so let's lay down a bass line for this. All right, let's lay something down and see if we can get something going in here. All right, just trying to remember where they were. That'll work. All right, let's do that. Now, so I wasn't recording, but it should have captured that, right? So again, I get the jitters when I hit record sometimes. So, but I liked that take. I'm like, oh, I wish I had recorded that. Well, I did. Or rather, the system did for me. So, looks like it. Clean it up a bit and let's see how it sounds. All right, we're going to keep that. Crop that down, and I think that's pretty good. I'm going to drop this an octave. That's good. All right. All right. So that's good. We'll see what I can get back to later today. But at this point, it's early in the morning for me. It's before 8 a.m. So here's a tip. If you struggle, if you're like, I don't have enough time to make music, I get home from work, if you're lucky enough that it's your career, hey, awesome. Great for you, right? Try and eat more. You might be starving. But if you got a day job and you just do music as a hobby, or you do semi-pro on the side, however you want to look at it, a lot of times people struggle and say, I just can't get into it. I don't have enough time. I've only got 30 minutes here or there. Well, I've only been doing this for about 30 minutes at this point, elapsed time. And you just find little gaps. You can train yourself to be productive in small increments of time, just like you could train yourself to take sleep and cat naps if you have to, right? Those, just take advantage of that stuff and don't stop making music because you're like, oh, I can't get a 4-hour block. It takes me an hour and a half just to get into it, and then I'm productive for half an hour, and then, I can't get into the flow quickly. Yeah, you can. You got to train yourself to do it, and you just do it through repetition. So give it a shot. Have fun with it. And I'll add a little bit more to this later today. Okay. Be right back. Okay, we're back. It's getting late. It's also really, really hot in my house. We have purchased, I think, like 5 standing fans because the AC just doesn't cut it. Anyway, so what's going on here? So while you were gone, or while I was shut down, I went through and recorded a bunch of bass lines for this stuff. And we'll audition a little bit of it. And then I went on and I dropped a little rhythm track, just a placeholder in there to give me some groove and feel there, sort of see what it feels like with some rhythm on it. And then I started basically dropping some leads in. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I didn't write these leads. I didn't compose them. They are just the same clips from the other synths that I have pulled, much like I pulled them across to the bass and pulled everything out except the bass parts as a sort of a test for the sound. I've done the same thing, and I've tested for some of the lead sounds just to see if they fit in there. I'm probably going to delete most of them and then write or play in more leads. But for now, I thought I'd give you a quick taste as far as the production log is concerned with what we've built for basslines, and show you, what do they say? What's the clickbait title? One neat trick that I did with the rhythm part that really turns the piece on its head. Because this is recorded in 6/8, so it's got this galloping feel, but it's also got this waltz feel, right? But by dropping a 4/4 rhythm part on it that's appropriately arranged, you get to convert this 6/8 galloping feel into this cool syncopated 4/4 piece, although it's still 6/8. Anyway, let's get around to that. Let's audition some of the bass parts. Okay, so let's see. Here's where we were. Right, so we've got that sort of guitar-esque shimmer sound on top of the Moog stuff. And then I'm just going to go through the bass parts. So here we go. Next part. Next part. Right, you could feel that galloping sort of texture. Right, I like that. So I'm not going to run through all the bass parts. I'm not going to force you to listen to all that. Eventually we'll get to a completed track. But now what I like to do is go find a placeholder rhythm part that's actually in 4/4 and lay that on top of this. So that's what we've got here. Let me go back and show you what this sounds like. It's a completely different feel. Here we go. So if I'll trigger that triplet bass part, and you'll see what I mean. Do a couple more. Here's another pattern. So we've got this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's still a waltz, but it feels like it's 4 on the floor, but it's in 6. If I drop out the rhythm, it'll revert. Anyway, I don't want to get too carried away there. So yeah, so I went through, I played in a bunch of bass lines that I'm happy with, went and tweaked them a bit. And that's given me a groove that I like, laid this, it's actually a 4 on the floor rhythm part on top of it, but it basically ends up being the foundation for this waltz feel, 3/4 sort of feel, while the other parts are doing the 6/8 galloping. I really like the way this works rhythmically. And now I'm going to go work on some leads, but that's for tomorrow and the day after. So I've got a few floating over here, but I'm not going to subject you to them yet. So, hey, this has been a fairly long production log. I hope it was interesting or entertaining at the very least. And as always, you have been watching Synth Seeker Production Logs. I'll talk to you later.